Welcome back. Well, today we're meeting the two greatest people we've ever had on the show. I'll just say that flat out. First, we met Hydea. Hydea is 11 years old, and she got married at friendship ceremony to a young man named Tyler, who, if there is such a thing as the all-American boy, it is Tyler. See for yourself. Here's Tyler. What hobbies do you have? What do you like best?
Football.
Football. Do you like fighting? You like wrestling?
I watch it sometimes.
When you watch wrestling, who do you like?
Razor Ramon.
Here he is.
Here's a little T-shirt for you, baby doll.
Strong like bull.
You can sleep in that.
Okay,
I got one for you too, buddy. I've been looking for you, man.
Yeah.
I heard you. Is it true that he was talking bad about me?
No, he said he was going to call you Mr. Ramon when you came in. He did say immediately. He did say immediately you were his favorite. Apparently his dad watches.
I always liked you best.
As tough as you are, and there's no one tougher, can you imagine having to fight the fight that these two kids that are the size of your right arm?
I just want to say, and I want Tyler and Hydea to know this, and I think they already do know this, that where I come from, it ain't how many times you go down, it's how many times you get up. You ain't beat till you quit. So if you don't quit, you never lose. I know. Keep fighting.
Just before the break, there was something that you wanted to say to...
Well, I just want to invite Hydea and Tyler. Our biggest show of the year is WrestleMania. You probably heard of it. You guys both live in Las Vegas. We're doing it in Los Angeles this year. Ain't too far for you guys. If it's all right with your moms and dads, I want to fly you there. I'm going to take care of you, limos, hotels, everything you need. We want you to come. We want you to come and we want you to come and enjoy WrestleMania and have a blast. And like I said, keep fighting. This is the World Wrestling Federation Intercontinental Belt. I've had it 4 times. I'll get another one. But these guys got to fight. Well, you know, don't give that. Come on. These guys, you know, I'm on the road 300 days a year, and sometimes, you know, I feel bad. These guys are fighting a fight that we all know what's happening here. These guys are my champs. Tyler, I want you to start with it. And little buddy, you got to share it with Hydea, okay? You take care of that. I'll see you guys at WrestleMania. I'll see you guys at WrestleMania. Jerry, thanks for having me.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Razor Ramon, he's got to go and beat somebody up. Thank you. You're a champ, guy. Real champ.
I think this is fake.
You can't say that.
I can say that.
Wrestling's not fake!
It's still real to me, damn it!
The unscripted, uncensored, loose cannon of commentary. This ain't WCW. This ain't Monday Night Raw. This ain't SmackDown. This ain't even WWE.
Do I have everybody's attention now?
The recognized symbol of excellence in sports entertainment.
You're listening to Marks on Commentary.
You're listening to Marks on Commentary. I'm Eddie Brophy.
I'm Jason Smith.
All right, now we're coming off of, obviously, Scott Hall's induction in the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
Rather, should I say Razor Ramon's Hall of induction. Did that strike you as a little weird that they inducted the character, not the man? Or, because I was thinking about that, because for the most part, it makes sense, because in WWF, he was Razor Ramon, but at this point, I don't know, what were your thoughts on that? Because I thought it was a little strange, but it did make sense for the fact that pretty much everybody, like William Moody wasn't inducted, Paul Bearer was.
Yeah, I understand it. Like initially, it was that they're doing Razor, and then it does make sense in the grand scheme of things. And I don't know if you've heard or read the article. I think it was Dave Meltzer who was saying that this enables them to some point down the line induct the whole NWO.
Right.
So essentially, Scarlett Hall gets to go in twice.
Well, I mean, Ric Flair obviously has gone in twice. I'd imagine NWO Hogan's going to go twice. I mean, if they went through with the whole, that's why I thought the whole idea of the Mania anniversary match getting inducted was a little stupid, because then you'd have to induct, and we've talked about this before, Hulk Hogan would get inducted 6 times?
Yeah, that would get a little ridiculous.
No, I mean, at first it seemed a little odd to me, but thinking back on it, obviously NWO. Now, does that mean that Kevin Nash is more than likely going to go in as Diesel? Because that's the other thing I was thinking about was Kevin Nash was never WWF champion. However, Diesel was.
Yeah. I don't know. That's a question to, cross that bridge when we get there. But
I don't know. It's just funny because when we were on Twitter, obviously, according to some of our Twitter followers, we were having a good night because Jason was feeding me cans of energy, according to how he wrote it. But no, it was interesting that, obviously when I posted that tweet about, Scott Hall, because WWE had jumped the gun and had released an advertisement for the Hall of Fame, which pictured Scott Hall. That was the thing that kind of let me down, was I felt like obviously they had one more person to induct, but it wasn't really a surprise because, I mean, obviously we've been hearing the rumors for a while.
Yeah.
But, I mean, did it kind of kill the Hall of Fame this year, knowing that, with the exception of Lita, I will give him that, with the exception of Lita, pretty much we knew everybody who was going in there.
Yeah. I mean, Lita and Carlos Colon, which is like the forgotten inductee this year.
Right.
But no, I'm happy with the class. It's a strong class, so.
Well, that's the thing. I definitely think it's a strong class. I'm really curious now. I mean, obviously, I want to see the ceremony this year, but I'm kind of curious how they're gonna try and top it next year.
Yeah. I mean, the big rumor is The Rock next year, so.
Right, but I mean, this year, obviously the big name going in, on everyone's mind is you kind of figure Jake the Snake was going in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it wouldn't be unusual. Obviously, I don't want to say he's had a bad relationship with WWE. More or less, he hasn't really had a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Warrior has had a notoriously bad relationship.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously that's a huge name, but I feel like what kind of, supports Warrior going in is the fact that there's an ensemble there. There's Warrior, but then there's so many other incredible talents, leading into Warrior. And that's really what makes the show. And I kind of feel like, yeah, The Rock's a big name and that's a big deal. But unless the class is as strong as it is this year, not to say that it won't matter that he's in there, but would it be as exciting? Because unlike a pay-per-view where you could write it off as being like, oh, this is a 1-match, 2-match pay-per-view, I feel like with the Hall of Fame class, it should be a really
stacked.
Yeah, a really star-studded class.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, because that's what sell tickets do as well. And I mean, yeah, The Rock is a marquee name, but I wouldn't see him necessarily supporting an entire class. So if you did Rock and like a bunch of mid-carders or people that kind of fell off the radar, I don't see it being as big of a deal as, you open with Warrior, that's a huge name. Jake's a big name. I don't know. Do you ever kind of think about that going forward? Like, oh man, like how many big names? I mean, obviously Cena will go in one day.
Mm-hmm.
There's still a handful of Attitude superstars that are in there yet, and there's even more WCW big names that are in there and ECW. So
yeah, I mean, they're as you go along, it's year to year, and eventually the next generation's going to go. This generation's going to be going in, and there'll be a new generation. I don't know. I think they'll be able to sustain having fresh people go in every year, where it's not here's this jobber that nobody remembers.
Right. Well, yeah, it's not like Gilbert or, Al Snow are going to be, the names on the top of their list going into next year. I mean, obviously The Rock's a huge one.
Mm-hmm.
Still holding out for Undertaker. I mean, obviously Triple H eventually is going in there. I still, on your list of potential, but not, later than sooner, I suppose. Vince McMahon, obviously, and according to Triple H, Vince won't allow anyone to induct him. And I'd imagine that's going to be the year Vince dies, that's the year he goes in.
Yeah.
When he can no longer prevent himself from going in, that's the year he goes in. I mean, the other thing, too, is obviously with, Triple H, I was thinking about this the other day, too, with Triple H and Steph basically taking over the company, or at least it kind of going that way. Although there were two other names, I can't remember the names specifically of, in the event of Vince passing on.
Oh, yeah.
There are two other names.
Executives.
Yeah, specifically due to the fact that there are still some people, shareholders and what have you, and board members that don't think Triple H is quite there yet.
Yeah.
In terms of how, I don't want to say frail or whatever, but how susceptible, I suppose, he is to the internet criticism of the kind of job he's doing.
Yeah, and he's also not a guy that, had a college, I don't believe he has a college degree, but at least not an advanced college degree where he's able to handle, a giant organization such as this. Not that he's not intelligent or anything like that,
well,
but...
I could beg to differ, too, because you don't necessarily need a college degree to be able to run a company. I mean, there are plenty of CEOs out there that did it from the ground up. I just think in terms of the sensitivity he still has to, dare I say, quote unquote, marks, kind of criticizing the job. Whereas, so many people criticize Vince, and we've been those people, and Vince doesn't give a damn about us.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like in this business, or any business really, you kind of need that attitude. Like, yes, you need to an extent, cater to the consumer, but at the end of the day, they're going to, as proven by, the Occupy Raw movement and what have you, they're going to buy tickets no matter what. No matter how indignant or pissed off they say they are, they're going to buy tickets.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what has kept Vince going for so long, is his refusal to really give a shit. But going with that, though, whoever gets, controlling stake of the company, do you obviously ever see Shane going in?
I wouldn't be opposed to it. I'd have to think about that. Yeah.
I mean, that's definitely something I was kind of scratching my head about. I was like, well, even though he doesn't have affiliation or a relationship with the company as it stands now, he's still a McMahon, and he still had, quite a, dare I say, legacy in the company. I mean, he was not a professional wrestler in the conventional sense, but he's definitely had some pretty phenomenal bouts with people.
Yeah. If it ever happens, it'll be down the line. It won't be in the immediate future.
Right.
In my opinion.
So, I mean, looking for opinions at MO Commentary, 978-276-9418. Obviously, those are a few questions regarding the Hall of Fame. Was it weird to any of you that it was Razor Ramon inducted and not necessarily Scott Hall? And in terms of McMahon's, Linda and Shane, I think, are two names that would definitely come up in terms of future inductions. I mean,
exactly.
Where do people, especially with Linda supposedly inducting Warrior, I mean, I'm not surprised, and I've said this on previous shows, I'm not surprised, given the relationship that I know Warrior had with Linda.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because I did read somewhere, and it could be totally fabricated, it could be totally untrue, but had Punk not pulled the crap that he did, it was leaning towards Punk doing the induction.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know how much say the person going in has versus... So, because I seem to remember when Hogan went in, it was Vince who pretty much handpicked Stallone. I don't think that was... If my memory bank serves correctly, with Hogan Knows Best, it was more or less like, oh, by the way, you're going to go into the class if you want to, and this is who's inducting you.
Yeah. It may have changed since that time. I have a feeling it does, where it's more of a friendship thing.
Right.
But.
And now, speaking of Hogan, obviously you caught the promo with, Hogan and Schwarzenegger and the werewolf from True Blood.
Yeah.
It just left such an awful taste in my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
First off, Schwarzenegger, don't get me wrong, big fan of his. He looks like hell. And it was literally, and I couldn't get over the fact that a Hollywood star, if you can call him that, a Hollywood star was put over The Miz.
Yeah.
What does that make you think in terms of how they value The Miz? Or could this be going into the future stable with The Miz and Ziggler and Zack Ryder?
It could be hinting at that, definitely, but it didn't. If the intent is to get them over as faces, then that's the wrong way to do it.
Well, I would think so, because something like that would be better for a push if they were going, with the heel.
Yeah.
But then again, Zack Ryder's internet video, I mean, if you can even surmise that WWE had anything to do with it, I enjoyed the fact that it leaned more favorable in terms of him being a heel than a face.
True.
I mean, granted, you could write it off as, well, he was just determined, but there were kind of like the idea of him being pissed off and not giving a shit about the rest of the roster and kind of wanting to create his own niche, if you will.
Yeah.
Now, moving forward here, what were some of the other hot topics this week that you think we should tackle?
I mean, one minor note was, I guess, WWE's contacting a number of former stars for like Mania appearances.
Now, is this just for signings and like just the appearances at Access, do you think, or do you see any of these people they're contacting kind of being surprise entrants in the Battle Royal?
I think it's less that they'll have an actual performing role on the show. Maybe one or two will be slipped into the, Battle Royal, but I kind of think they want to use that as for talent. But it's weird. Like, you go through I heard the numbers for the show, and it's like 66 guys or something like that on the show, or 66 talents. And there's not many guys left for the Battle Royal. But
thinking about that, did we get a definite number? Because it looked on Raw like you pretty much got your round figure of all the active talent on the roster right now. They're going to be performing that match.
There's what is it? The picture up on the WrestleMania site. It shows 4 spots remaining. So, and that there's a week left. So and guys like, what was it, JTG and Tyson Kidd aren't in it yet. So
true. I mean, with the exception of his his appearances on Total Divas, I don't know, Tyson Kidd. I've always been a huge fan of his, but I don't even know. Is he injured? Are they just not using him? Like, what's his story lately?
I heard that the theory is that you don't want to heat somebody up right before WrestleMania. Usually, you'll get through with Mania and then heat the guy up again. So, I mean, he's too good of a talent for them to not do anything with.
Right.
So I imagine post WrestleMania we'd start to see something.
Is there any chance that we may see a return of Evan Bourne?
Again, that guy, it's like so far out of, the consciousness of current WWE. He's been gone almost 2-3 years almost now, it feels like.
I know, because I was thinking about that. Like, how long did that injury sideline him for? I mean, well, injury and, of course, the wellness violation.
I remember being like, oh, he's going to be a surprise entrant in the 2013 Rumble, and that didn't happen.
Right.
This year didn't happen. Another name is Ezekiel Jackson. I met him last year at Access and been like, oh, he's going to be back anytime now. Still listed on the roster page, but no word on where he is or what he's doing.
Right. No, that makes me wonder, though, but with 4 open slots like that, so would you even bother putting in, as you say, because if they're going to wait till after Mania to heat someone up, would you even bother trying to get a few of those guys in, or would you save those 4 slots for anyone with a Legends contract or anyone to make like their one appearance at Mania and be like, hey, remember me, and then have them thrown out?
I think you get more of a reaction if you put a legend in there than, a Tyson Kidd or somebody.
Right. So
it's behoove of them to do it.
So, I mean, for example, if someone like Kevin Nash were to show up, but it wouldn't make sense because where he was one of the surprise Rumble entrants, I can't see them feeling like it would work by kind of pulling that out twice.
Yeah, it would have to be not so, like an intercontinental mid-card range kind of guy.
Right.
Who hasn't been seen on TV in maybe the last, 8 years or something.
I was almost going to go as far as to, throw out the name Shamrock, but
that I think would draw too much attention of what they're looking. They'd look for like a hacksaw Jim Duggan kind of guy. You know what I mean?
So you think they kind of pull more from the pool of the late 80s, early 90s?
Not necessarily, but that kind of caliber of superstar.
Right. Well, because obviously, I mean, we'd remember Shamrock, but I mean, how many, and I shouldn't say this because I know our listeners, of course, especially on Twitter when I'm making Pure Moods references, and I'm shocked when people are like, I get that reference. How many of us would actually know or get excited to see Shamrock versus the even bigger number of people like, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah. I don't know. I wonder, I don't know. I don't know how much clout the guy still has. I mean, to UFC guys, like MMA guys, yeah, I'm sure it carries some weight, but...
Well, I mean, then you got to figure, too, I mean, there was that article that, the interview he did think it was last year, where he said he was the one being proactive and trying to get back with the company, and they were the ones not returning his calls.
Yeah. That's a shame.
Yeah, I mean, there's God, I'm even trying to think of names that you could pull.
I mean, Steve Blackman. They're doing that show now. Like, that would be like a decent name for them to get a little bit of a pop, but not so much that it draws away the attention.
I don't think it would draw away attention, but even how many, I'm just going more or less with like the Now fans.
Yeah.
I mean, how many of them are there versus how many of us there are? And that's something you got to keep in mind now when we watch the product too is, you know, I see Steve Blackman. I think that's really cool. But even when we were fans of, you know, the Attitude Era and Blackman, he never quite got to that point, even when we were watching him.
Yeah.
I'd almost feel like a D'Lo Brown scenario where right before, I mean, well, not necessarily the fever pitch because D'Lo had done the thing with Chaz and he had done the thing with Godfather.
Mm-hmm.
But there was that point in his career, as SummerSlam 99, I would say, when he was in the match with Jarrett, when he was in that program, where D'Lo was really hot.
Yep.
And then there was that Monday Night Raw where he came out, and I don't even really know why they brought him back. Maybe he had signed like a temporary deal, and they were like, all right, we're going to give you one shot tonight and see how you do. I mean, he was a fantastic performer.
Yeah. But
the lack of anything that he got from the crowd was really depressing. Like when you go back and watch that clip, it was really, really depressing. I mean, I was a huge D'Lo fan, especially when, you know, obviously he broke away from the Nation, and you know, there was the whole program with Mark Henry that they were kind of building to with that SummerSlam match, but you almost kind of forgot completely about Mark Henry and that tag team.
Yeah.
Because D'Lo was really hot as a singles competitor.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just feel like after that, when he had the feud with Mark Henry at Unforgiven, it was kind of like, all right, we don't know what to do with you, buddy. You're like a career European champion.
Well, I believe what happened was Vince Russo was a big supporter of him, and when he left for WCW, all the support for him kind of left with him.
Well, that's the other question I would have, too, because I've always wondered about that. The number of guys who Vince Russo was going to keep, you know, pretty much in the mid-card kind of moving, you know, incrementally moving up the ladder, and how many of those names just completely fell off once he left the company.
Yeah.
I mean, I know one of those names, obviously, but Vince left after Jarrett did. I know he was a big Jeff Jarrett guy.
Yeah. That's one. I'm trying to think of some more names that just kind of fell to shit after that.
I mean, well, you can go your obvious ones, like when you got a guy like Midian who turns into Naked Midian. I mean, but I don't think there was ever much faith in him as a performer or even a character.
Yeah.
I don't know, because I think the obvious ones, like, yeah, Jarrett, Shamrock. I mean, I'm still not 100% on why Shamrock left. Originally, I thought it was because of an injury. I
thought it was because he still felt like he had some like UFC fights in him and he wanted to do that.
Right.
That's always kind of been what I've lent toward as the reasoning.
It just seems funny, though, that a guy like Brock could literally just leave you high and dry. You know, the 20th anniversary of WrestleMania, and, you know, leave to go play football and then do the UFC thing. And he's kind of welcomed back with open arms, whereas Shamrock was really loyal to that company. And if that's why he left, why it seems like they just want nothing to do with him now.
I don't know. Brock's a star. Like, the UFC Ken Shamrock champion is one thing. Brock Lesnar, 2010 UFC champion, is another thing. Like, you know what I mean?
I'll give you that, because Brock was definitely, well, he was a star of the company.
Yeah.
Versus Shamrock, who it just never seemed like he was going to break that, like, glass career Intercontinental Champion ceiling. He was never going to break that Kofi Kingston ceiling. Or should I say Kofi suffers from Shamrock syndrome? Think about it, though.
Yeah.
I feel like there are certain superstars that they come into the company. I mean, Ryder touched on it. You know, he peaked when he became U.S. champion. That's literally the equivalent of, like, you know, peaking at European level or hardcore level. That's like the Crash Holly syndrome of, like, he peaked when he became a hardcore champion. You know, or in today's standards, that'd be the equivalent of peaking at the NXT title belt. Well, I plateaued after I won that belt. Now, have you actually seen the logo on the NXT Championship belt?
The network logo?
They has that this isn't is this new or am I late to the party here?
No, I think I have seen it on there, but I think it's just been the side plates.
Right.
Or do you mean around the venue itself?
I was more or less talking about the belt because I'm still curious. Monday Night Raw following WrestleMania, if any of those belts are gonna, as we've talked about before, if they're all gonna get a makeover or if they're still gonna ease into it.
I think they all get a makeover.
I
think that's the natural progression. I think, WrestleMania is one thing you've promoted already with the classic, or I guess you can call it classic WWE logo now, and after that you can build towards it. It's why it's on the Mania 23. I mean, not 23. 31 logo.
Now, I was thinking too in terms of WrestleMania itself. Do you think that that's going to be the make or break for the network?
Not necessarily. I mean, we're locked into a 6-month contract, and it's not like I'm gonna finish watching WrestleMania if it sucked. Well, I guess I'm not gonna use those other 5 months of pay-per-views I have coming up.
Right.
So there's a little bit of a grace period, but it's definitely gonna. It could make it in sense of how many buys it does or subscribers it does, but not necessarily where it ends in terms of success.
I don't think they'd bow out that quickly. I'm just curious because if you completely remodel the face of the company with that logo, is it kind of a gamble to just have all your belts and your banners and your LED screens and stuff match the logo for a network that's still kind of in the zygote experimental stages?
Not if you're looking at it, it's just the new WWE logo, not necessarily a network logo.
I mean, I suppose you could look at it that way. I don't know, because it's one of those failures that if the network doesn't succeed, which I'm sure it will because of everything else they offer. Yeah. I'm just wondering how much more difficult it would be than, say, the XFL to sweep it under the rug like this never happened.
Yeah. Well, if you're gonna do like a examination of the logo, you have to look at going from the WWF scratch logo to the WWE logo.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like there was that like hangover period where you're like, that's just the logo minus the F.
Right.
And it's just at a certain point, that's the logo now.
Well, I always thought that was funny though, and I've been really lobbying for them to change that logo since in my mind. And you could say, and I had said previously. It's something that will never see the light of day unless we do bad lip reading to it. But that, in my mind at least, that WrestleMania 17 was kind of the end of the Attitude Era. And I always found it funny that logo was synonymous with that era of wrestling. Yet to this day, they've still held on to it.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong.
Mutilated version, but.
I'm not.
It's almost weird to look at the WWF logo now. I mean, we're so far removed from it.
It's now. Are you talking Attitude? Are you talking like the classic WWF logo?
Just the Attitude one.
Yeah, the Attitude one. Well, yeah, we're definitely very far removed from that era of wrestling. I still love the way that the original or the '80s era logo looked. There's just something about it that I just absolutely love, but it doesn't work without the F. And as I've seen, they've actually added the E to it for the network.
Yeah.
That doesn't work. It just looks like the women's entertainment logo.
That's worse. That's way worse.
Because that's the thing. I could bitch and gripe about how I don't necessarily love the WWE Network logo, but where do you really go from here? Because it's not like...
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's sleek, but it's still edgy. I don't know if... I mean, it does look like you can make it in Microsoft Paint, but...
Because, I mean, I'm sure, obviously, it's a Fortune 500 company. You got a whole team of people that are brainstorming. And, I mean, I saw on WWE.com when they posted all the drafts for the new WWE title. Some of those were just plain awful looking. And these guys getting paid, I'm sure, really handsomely to sit in a room and like design this stuff, and they were fucking terrible.
Yeah, chains and metal wings and fire and.
The sad thing is it was the only time where I actually thought, you know what, if we didn't get the belt we did, and if you've gone back and listened to earlier episodes, I did not love that belt when I first saw it. It took me a while to warm up to it, but my God, if they had gone with any of those other designs, how much it would have made me miss the spinner belt.
Yeah.
I mean, because
I wonder if people are gonna come around to the spinner belt in a couple years.
I don't know on that one because we're not that far removed from it.
Yeah.
And again, I didn't love the new belt when The Rock first introduced it, but I mean, it's kind of like the network logo. If that's as good as it's gonna get, then fine. I don't want to know what the viable alternative was. I really don't.
I don't know. I really can't think. Like, I remember, like, you sit in study hall and I'd just kind of draw and it'd be like, I don't know what you do with the logo now. Like, what's the next step? And to me, that's just kind of it.
Well, I mean, that's the thing too, is because you got to figure what's the next step short of actually changing the name of your fucking company to accommodate how the logo looks. And I mean, you can listen to this right now and think this is the most boring goddamn thing we could discuss, but it's one of those things that in business, people literally like kill themselves trying to come up with a logo that like is like, oh God, how does at the end of the day, how does it look on T-shirts? How does it gonna look on, the displays that you set up in Kmart and Toys R Us and what have you? Because you look at that logo and immediately you associate it with your product. I mean, that's why I thought it was so funny for so long that it wasn't that they were complacent with the John Cena spinner belt, but they were actually happy with it. But again, that was more of the manifestation of this is the PG era. We're catering more to kids. If it was something that could be replicated in, a toy form they could peddle for $30 and it was selling, I can't disagree with why they stuck with it.
Yeah.
And now moving forward too with Brock Undertaker, what did you think of the exchange between them on Raw?
It's kind of weird that they're booking Brock as kind of this, pussy almost.
Right.
In my mind, you know what I mean? Like, Brock should be the one to stand up to. If Brock's not going to be the guy that say, I'm going to hurt you, Undertaker, who the hell is?
Well, and that brings in, obviously, a rumor that has been confirmed, and now we're learning that Sting was signed for literally one match.
Mm-hmm.
And I predicted a few shows ago, if not the last show, that if they're going to build Sting and Taker, they're going to do it either at Mania or the night after.
Yeah.
I'm not completely against the idea that Taker beats Brock. He does his typical in-ring pose. You set up the victory on the screen, fireworks go off, all the lights in the stadium go out. Here comes Sting.
Yeah.
I mean, would you just...
It'd definitely be cool.
I mean,
I think there's enough... I think there's enough things you can do the following night to make that entertaining.
Well, is that something you hold off to do like they did with Cena Rock? Do you wait till Raw to do it, or would you kind of tease it at Mania?
It could even be a whodunit kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like,
do you see
Undertaker is on his back, ready to be put out, and then somehow Brock is laid out and Taker's hanging over him or something.
Would that be too...
You know what I mean? Like
I don't know. Would that be a terrible way to introduce Sting, though? Would that be like too cliche? Because obviously, when the Shield were coming out and they were beating up people for CM Punk, I mean, it worked, but it still felt a little like, oh, come on, this is like the most overused way of introducing like a new character in WWE or like trying to make them a credible threat.
It depends. I don't know what their angle is with Sting. Is he supposed to be a face? Is he supposed to be a heel? I imagine they want a face because you can market that, but
But the thing, it does the whole, I don't know how to say it, but like, does it make Taker streak impressive if he's a bad guy? Like, do you want everyone to cheer for him to maintain the streak, or do you kind of switch it up and make people want to, like, kind of like, oh my God, just end it already?
I think the money is, I don't think we'll ever see a heel Taker again.
At this point, well, how would you build a heel Taker for one match a year? I think is the other good question.
I don't even know. Like, you'd have to go against, like, the top babyface, so maybe Bryan. But then you run the risk of fans turning on Bryan.
Well, I think that's the tough thing with Taker. I think that's why you always have to have a heel against him. Would it
or another face, like, or you know what I mean, or I don't know, not another face, but somebody of credibility.
So maybe like a tweener, because will it kill the match if nobody really knows who and we've talked about this before. Would it hurt a streak match if fans are walking into it being like, I have no idea who to cheer for? I mean, I think
it would make it awesome.
I think we definitely kind of had that with the second Triple H, and what I mean second, I mean the actual second, not the quasi first WrestleMania bout with them. But I feel like we kind of had that because, again, when Taker returned, he got the pop, and then before he can even utter a word, Triple H came out, he got a huge reaction.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there was, the Raw following that match where Triple H looked remorseful for what he did to Taker.
Mm-hmm.
Which seemed funny to me that he was almost a heel by the following year. That was a weird match, too, even looking on that, because I feel like he went into that match as a heel, and then he came out as a face again. So I don't know. It's like the logo thing. It's just like, how do you handle a situation like that? Have they literally backed themselves into a corner with the Taker streak?
No, I think it just becomes, when it happens, if it happens, it's going to be like a monumental moment in WWE. If anything, I think it will be Cena at 32, not 31.
I think as of now, you're going Sting at 31, and I'm almost going to, depending on what happens, because a lot can happen to Cena between now and then. I'm just talking injury-wise. I'm just talking like just overall fatigue, and not just Cena's fatigue, but eventually Cena's overzealous, group of fans, including the kids and the females. I gotta imagine they gotta get tired of him sooner or later.
You're talking about 2 years. Can you pedal it for 2 more years?
Well, that's what I mean, though. Just overall, can you keep up Cena's momentum? Because I kind of feel like, like you were saying with Brock against Taker, I find it really unusual that they're kind of making Cena into a pussy going into the Wyatt match. Like,
I don't know. I enjoy it. I enjoy that somebody's getting to Cena.
Well, I will say that
you never see that.
Well, the crowd reaction when the lights went out and they came back on, he had a stupid goat mask on. That was kind of interesting to me, how the crowd reacted to that. I thought it was, I can't quite gauge. Don't get me wrong, I thought it was cool. I just thought "This is awesome" chant when that happened was kind of unusual.
Yeah. It wasn't. I think now, even the most newest, youngest fan kind of senses that something's changing. You know what I mean? Like, the landscape is changing. The young guys are going to be the guys for the next generation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even going chants, I mean, I joked on Twitter, and obviously, people were there was a few that were like, no, dude, it's the yes chant. But I kind of feel like the CM Punk chant is almost this generation's version of what? And, people said no, but people tend to forget what was not an endearing chant. What was literally for the crowd to drive the athletes crazy or the talent crazy in the ring. Yeah. If you thought something was really boring or really shitty, they'll chant what? I mean, if there's someone like a Batista who's cutting a promo and it's just like, you don't care about it, you chanted what? Basically to annoy them to the point where they're like, all right, I can't deal with this, and they storm off. Mm-hmm. I feel like that's definitely got to be the CM Punk chant now. Because it makes me wonder how many people are chanting it that actually miss him, and how many people are just chanting it because they're like, you know what would drive them fucking up a wall? Just start chanting for this guy that doesn't even care that we're chanting for him.
I don't know. I kind of feel that the people cheering for him are the people that really do miss him.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying
At least they're the ones to get it started.
I mean, I'm not saying that's definitely not a factor because, I mean, the Sin Cara Scooby-Doo thing, what the hell was that? I mean, I can understand WWE wanting to promote whatever they're affiliated with in terms of like, you know, home video distribution, whatever, but that was, I don't know, that was really killing it for me. Like, that had crossed the line from this still being entertaining to this being like a glorified Saturday morning cartoon.
Yeah.
And not a very good one.
I don't know, but this is a show that also featured the Muppets at one point, so.
Hey, Pee Wee Herman, the Muppets, I'm not saying I was a fan of any of it. The only reason why the Pee Wee Herman hosting Raw thing worked was because of that totally random promo with Freddie Prinze Jr. and Vince McMahon. When Vince was in the coma and he woke up. I still, believe it or not, as dumb as it was, I thought that was hysterical. Basically, you know, pointing out all the stuff that the smarks on the internet were bitching about, which was Daniel Bryan as U.S. champion, you know, Cena joining the Nexus, and, you know, Pee Wee Herman's taking over Raw. I don't know. I've always hated the whole guest host on Raw thing. I've never been a fan of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I especially
There's never been one that you've been like.
Not really.
Never been one that you're like, oh, I really like.
I don't know. Have you ever had one?
I'm trying to think. I mean, Bob Barker wasn't bad.
It wasn't
not terrible.
But, I mean, it still wasn't. It just kind of took away from what we're trying to watch here, which is wrestling. I mean, that's kind of how I felt during the Schwarzenegger segment was, okay, whenever you guys are done kissing each other's ass, it was, I would like to watch wrestling now.
True. I just think the problem is they overproduce stuff. Where it's just like, okay, can we not try and get on the ABC 10 o'clock news again? You know what I mean? Like, let's just have a fun moment here.
Yeah.
Like think of something like, you know, Piper and Morton Downey Jr. or whatever, and that, you know, they just let it happen as opposed to like, oh, well, you're going to mention this and you're going to mention that and we're going to blow this up and talk about that and go back and forth for 20 minutes on shit nobody cares, and then you're going to punch them.
Well, no, that was my feelings initially. Now, are you kind of hinting at what I'm thinking right now, which was that was the Mickey Rourke, Chris Jericho thing in Mania? Because I felt like that was...
Scooby-Doo?
Well, no, I'm just saying in general, like when you say like, all right, you know, how hard are we trying now to get on, you know, into the network media? We're like, oh, Mickey Rourke knocked out a wrestler. And there was so much build up to something that really was so trivial and didn't even matter.
Yeah. And by that point, it's like, okay, you know it's going to happen. He's sitting at ringside.
If Scooby-Doo wrestled a match, that would have been an entirely different story here.
Yeah.
And at this point, I've lost. Jason's just like, you know what? I don't even know what the hell he's talking.
Yeah. I don't know. He wants Sin Cara versus fucking Scooby-Doo on a Scooby snack on a pole match.
It just seems so absurd when you see a dude in a Scooby-Doo outfit coming down to the ring. I don't know. That's just way too Disney on Ice for me. And
I was kind of hoping he would do like the Sin Cara jump over the ropes and like botch it.
Well, I mean, did you hear that too?
And then do like a what?
Well, does it even matter that they released the original Sin Cara? I mean, that's
pretty funny.
Well, when you have essentially a nondescript masked character, does it really matter who's playing him?
No,
I mean, it's not
Batman.
Well, I mean, so you're gonna shit on Ben Affleck right now, aren't you?
I'm not gonna shit on Ben Affleck. I'm curious to see Batflick.
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 We're supposed to be marks on commentary, sir. I don't even want to branch off and talk about how stupid I think the new Batsuit looks.
Oh, I haven't seen it. I have to check it out after this.
Or for that regard,
well, you were marking out. If we'll jump off topic, you did mark out earlier for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles trailer.
No, I wasn't marking out. I was pissed. That movie looks terrible.
You hate it?
It looks awful.
Really?
Okay, So you
I'm
watched.
gonna give it a shot.
Yeah. So you watched the trailer, obviously. The end of the
Yeah.
trailer where Michelangelo removes his mask. Oh, don't worry, it's just a mask. I just they look terrible. I mean, I'm biased.
Yeah, but is that any different? I don't know. Like they're jacked up, and it's like, okay, it's not your daddy's fucking Ninja Turtles anymore.
Is that how you're gonna promote it, sir?
I don't know. I guess so, but it's I'm not hating on it till I see it. I didn't
really upset.
Let me get you hated Transformers though.
Oh God,
you hated Transformers, right?
I don't. To be honest with you, I
Really?
did. I didn't like it, but I didn't hate it as much as I hated GI Joe.
Okay. I didn't even. I think I saw like the first one and watched it once and never again. But I didn't really hate the first Transformer.
I just
there were that moments like, oh shit.
I've seen like fan videos for like a future Ninja Turtles film that looked better than this looks.
Yeah, there's always going to be like the let's go with the rubber suits and stuff like that, and I would definitely be able to get into something like that. But
I mean, the other
I didn't hate it.
I did actually, and I didn't see the whole movie. I saw what was put up on YouTube, so it's obviously like someone in a foreign country sitting in a movie theater with a video camera. My God, I am so grateful that I never saw the RoboCop remake now.
Really?
The movie ended so badly. Essentially, the movie ends with Murphy's head and his lungs hanging from the ceiling. I don't quite... I think it was essentially like they were going to rebuild him a body. And he was going to be like... He was no longer be a product of OCP, but I can't even get on that subject. But no, and it's funny because I had a lot of people complain to me on Facebook today because I just was so not feeling the Ninja Turtles trailer. But like you,
no, I'm not like in love with it, but I'm not in love with it, but I'm like, I'll give it a shot. Like, I don't know. I'm very forgiving. You really have to fuck up a movie for me to hate it.
Well,
epically.
Obviously, we will get back to wrestling soon, but give me an example of a movie that was fucked up so badly that it was unforgivable.
Max Payne.
Never,
if you've seen that.
Never saw the movie, but never played the game. But I almost feel like I am a Mark Wahlberg fan within certain context, but terrible casting, terrible. I never even played the game, and I just remember.
Really, I was like, this is gonna be awesome. I had just seen, what the fuck's the movie? The Boston movie, The Departed and shit like that.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm like, oh, he's on a roll. He's gonna hit a home run with this. And I'm like, I like it. And the trailer looked awesome. And then I sat down for the movie. I'm like, this is a piece of shit, and it doesn't have anything to do with the game. Like,
Jason's a very angry Mark right now.
I am, like, because I played that game like numerous times, and I'm like, oh, this is awesome, and it almost had like a film sense, like the story was written. Just copy this.
I feel like you really hate Boston right now. So far, you have shit on Ben Affleck and you have shit on Mark Wahlberg.
I didn't shit on Ben Affleck. I said Batflick, or
you don't seem like you're very high on. And it sounds messed up. I'm like on the line of not really wanting to give Ninja Turtles a chance, but I will give Ben Affleck a chance. I don't even really know why. Maybe it's because I actually enjoy Jersey Girl. I don't know.
I'm with you. I'm a Kevin Smith fan.
Yeah, but
it is in my collection.
Just because we're wrestling fans doesn't mean we're a fan of everything wrestling related. That's no different for, in my mind, a director. You can be a fan of a director. Like, I love Kevin Smith as much as the next person. I thought Clerks II sucked. Don't you?
I like that.
Did you?
I'm sorry. I did. I enjoyed it.
I'm just. How do you make a sequel to a movie like that?
Like that.
Well,
I did. If you look at it and don't go in being like, oh, this is Clerks 2. Just watch it for what it is, a movie. Be like, hey, this is fun.
Jason's getting high and mighty on me now.
When you compare it again. No, I'm serious. Like, don't look at it being like, well, it has to be exactly like that.
Well, no, I didn't do that.
Not, it can't be.
And
he's not the same guy.
I'm sure certain listeners could argue me on this. You know what it was that kind of did it in for me? I actually thought it was a little depressing. I mean, obviously it had the happy ending, but there were parts in the movie that were like really depressing to me. And don't get me wrong, like the original Clerk, especially if they went with the original ending that they had shot. I'm actually really grateful for the fact that they didn't keep that ending.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a cynical movie. Don't get me wrong; it was a cynical movie, but I don't know how to explain it. There was something about the cynicism that like it worked in its favor. Whereas with Clerks II, it just came across as really sad and just kind of depressing. Like, wow, getting older sucks. I mean, I think I know
in the same sense as like, what's that?
Oh no, I was saying I think that was more or less the angle he was going for, and in which case he definitely delivered. It just something about it, just I don't know, it just didn't click with me.
I don't know. To me, it's like when I give you more leeway to tug on my heartstrings when you make me laugh and like these people more. You know what I mean?
I mean, true.
I can watch a movie and be like, oh wow, I'm really connected to these guys and they're funny and I would definitely hang out with them. Oh wait, what? This happened to him? Wow, that sucks.
So I can actually use that as a perfect segue back into the wrestling portion of the show. Because
Mark's at the movies is
whatever. It was a slow week of wrestling, but I mean, you can actually apply that to Daniel Bryan. And I was actually reading an interview he did where he had actually touched on the fact that as far as he knows, nobody's really annoyed by the fact that people are chanting yes during every match. I mean, that would definitely be something I would love to ask, any wrestler who's either on a current roster or, from days of yore. Like, what was the one chant that absolutely drove you fucking nuts? To the point, like, where you wanted to beat the crap out of the guy that, like, started, or the guy that was associated with that chant.
I don't know if there is one. I think as long as they're doing something, that's when they enjoy it. I think I've always heard the worst crowd reaction is the no crowd reaction. So,
well, I mean, obviously, I don't know if you've read. I think we've talked about this before in Jericho's second book. He touched on the fact that I think it's in Japan. As a sign of respect, don't make any noise during the matches, and they found that like a lot of the guys in the locker room thought that was like kind of painful to work through. I mean,
you'll go watch any tapes. It's pretty weird. It's pretty weird. Like they'll hit a couple spots and then you'll just hear a light like golf clap. Like,
well, I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen. Going back to Mark's at the movies, if you ever saw Dragon Bruce Lee story. I mean, here was a guy that was from that culture, and he started making movies over there. And when the movie wrapped up, when the movie was going on, there was like no reaction whatsoever. So he grabbed his wife and he was like, all right, let's go. It was a bomb. And then the movie ends and they're carrying him on their shoulders and running out of the theater with him. And it's like, when you're Americanized, you're just used to loud, rowdy crowds. But when you go to different cultures, and to them, it's an art form they still love and respect. But they regard it with the kind of reverence that doesn't merit, like, obscene chants or obnoxious chants.
Yeah. It's also just the culture in general. That's how they are. And, over respectful. They don't want to cause a scene or anything like that.
Well, I also call it the Rodney Dangerfield effect. I don't know. Are you a Caddyshack fan?
A little bit. I've seen it.
Well, like, there was the story where Rodney Dangerfield, because he was so used to being a stand-up comedian, he would do a scene and he would do a line or two that were funny and nobody would laugh. And he would kind of look around the room and be like, was that not good? How come no one's laughing? And Harold Ramis had to remind him, Rodney, this is a movie. Like, we don't laugh when we're shooting. That's for the audience to do, not us. See, my computer's just mad at you tonight because you're a supporter of the Ninja Turtle remake. My laptop doesn't agree.
I'm
Clerks II.
Not a supporter. I'm an interested party. That's all. I'll let you know if I hate it afterwards.
You know what I want hashtag Michael Bay to stop raping my childhood. End hashtag. Stop it. Michael Bay's sodomizing my childhood. Enough. Now going forward.
It doesn't make your childhood go away.
No, I mean,
I hate
Eddie was drinking the haterade.
I hate that idea.
What, of your childhood getting ruined? Well, I always...
No, I mean, I get the joke, but it's just the idea where it's like, it ruins the first. No, it doesn't.
No, you know it could have...
Like the first one or the second one.
You know it could have ruined the original franchise? Ninja Turtles 3.
Agreed.
I mean,
that sucked.
If there was ever going to be an installment in any franchise, but that's, I don't know. It's like Star Wars fans that said, oh, the first, the new 1 through 3 episodes, they ruined Star Wars. Well, okay, but 4 through 6 are still pretty fucking awesome, so...
Yeah.
Don't own or watch the other.
The other thing, it's like, this is a different lineage of Ninja Turtles, if we're going to jump back onto that. If... Like how 3 sucked, and it's like, yeah, this totally blows. And you can watch the trailer, and you're like, whoa, this has nothing to do with what you've set me up to believe it's about. Well, but this is a new franchise, essentially.
Well, for the most part, I'm a ball buster about stuff like that, because I know when I put something out there that people are going to react, because it's whatever, it's conversation. I also think, too, that that's the whole point of a remake. There's a reason why... in terms of like the Invasion of the Body Snatchers, people prefer the one from the 70s over the original, or the original over that. The Blob, the 80s Blob, I love over the original. Or, why everyone thought...
Or the fucking Psycho remake.
I was just going to say, Gus Van Sant Psycho.
Everyone... Psycho.
Well, because it was
shot for shot, pretty much the same thing.
And you took the words out of my mouth. It was literally word for word, shot for shot, scene for scene. It was Psycho. With a really bad cast.
But I guess you can see Anne Heche's butthole in the shower. Just for anybody with that DVD.
Do I want to see her butthole in the shower, Jason? I think that's the more important question.
I don't know. Get your hand off the DVD and...
I mean, this definitely, I don't know.
Don't take a screen cap or Google Anne Heche's butthole.
I don't own that DVD. Got to buy it from the thrift store for 99 cents.
Is it the VHS?
Yes, it was the VHS.
It might be a little grainy.
Oh my god, that's the only downfall to still being like an enthusiast of VHS tapes, is you get spoiled with the technology now. And I was watching a few of my VHS tapes, and of course, it's that blast of nostalgia met with, oh my god, this is such shitty quality. Where's my Blu-ray? It's like the WWE Network. If you just included all the shit that I remember from when I was a kid and first rented the movie, we're all set. I don't need to waste my time.
Do you mean like coming attractions and shit?
Oh, hell yeah. Well, I mean, certain videos, like if a franchise was like, taking off or whatever, and they do like I know it's going to be the nerdiest thing in the world, and our listeners don't care, but like, when Freddy's Dead was released on VHS, they did the 900 number to win like, giveaways and shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that stuff's cool to me. I like seeing that stuff because, I was way too young to even be able to do, partake in those things, if you will.
Yeah.
And of course, I say 900 numbers, and our listeners are going to go a different direction with that.
What's that?
Oh, that's going to be fun to children one day. Back in my day, we had these things called video stores. I used to go to the mobile down the street from me, and I used to call 1-800-SEX-LINE.
Did you?
Oh my god, that was like when you had the one male friend that was like, "Hey, there's this fucking number. You gotta call it." And because it was an 800 number, you didn't have to put a quarter in, so you go to the local payphone, you type it in, and then you get "You've reached 1-800-SEX-LINE," and you're like, "Holy crap, that's a thing!"
Quick, hang it up before somebody catches us.
Essentially, yes, that's because, I mean, even back then, and this is pre 9/11, by the way, Big Brother was always watching. Like, you always thought there was someone that worked at the mobile gas station who like was like monitoring like the Nextel, one of the payphones out back. That's like 1-800-COLLECT. That's again 1010 220 and all that stuff. That's the type of stuff that like I really hope we never forget, for the simple fact that one of my all-time favorite stories. Again, we've already lost interest in the wrestling portion of Marks and Commentary, so bear with us. We're veering in a new direction here.
It's a slow week, like you said.
But my favorite all-time story was I had a friend in 8th grade who was in detention, and Jason and I we went to both the same middle school and high school. But in the middle school, if you remember, sir, there were tables set up like you know how like there was the staircase that led into the theater, and then there was the office, and the table where like the kids in detention or whatever, if you broke your arm, you couldn't participate in gym class, so you were stuck sitting out there.
Yeah.
That was me in 7th grade, by the way. I broke my hand in a backyard wrestling stunt. Well, I had this friend in 8th grade who that's where he had to eat his lunch because it was a lunchtime detention. He had the brilliant move of calling the office collect. Here was the brilliant part. He thought it would be hysterical to prank the office from outside the office via 1-800-COLLECT. And this genius thought it'd be even funnier when they said state your name. He would give his actual name. And that was one of those things where, like, you had to appreciate it because, you know, you always had those friends that they would do things that they thought were funny because they also thought it would impress, like, their classmates and they would think it was hysterical. No, this kid literally, no audience, just did this because he thought it'd be hysterical. And the worst part about that story is I guarantee there's people listening right now. What the hell is 1-800-COLLECT? I do wonder with a lot of subscribers, though, if any of that stuff, if they, as you said, they've retained like a lot of the old ads and like
Stridex commercials and
sponsors and stuff. If there's a younger demographic being like, "What is this? Like, what is that?"
I don't know. That I'm sure there is. But I think this is a good time to segue into what we're looking to do sometime next week or Mania week.
Anytime would have been a good way to segue into that.
No, but essentially the idea is, you know, we're coming up on the 1-year show, and me and you have talked about how, you know, we'd kind of like to do like an origin show of
right.
You know, who we are, how we met, you know, and then we can go up to just before we started the show and then go into, you know, favorite memories of the show. So this might be a 2-part episode next week.
Yeah, I'll save all the trouble. Essentially, Jason was the Vince McMahon of backyard wrestling. I was the Paul Heyman. He was supposed to join my...
Why do I have to be Vince and you get to be Paul Heyman?
Well, because you were supposed to join my company. You know what happened? You stole my guys, and I went out of business.
All of these classic great stories you'll be able to hear about next week.
The best part of that story is my 30-something-year-old sister, who knew Jason's sister. They used to walk their kids to South School. And I don't even know why that's like the only memory they've retained of me and Jason was my sister felt awkward to walk to school with Jason's sister and her kid because all she kept thinking was, oh, our brothers didn't get along. They're wrestling federations for rivals. It's a sad fucking day in real life when your oldest sister is like, no, I can't walk with her. No, that was Eddie's rival in 7th grade.
Now, you may have to fill in the blanks on the other side of this because I don't necessarily remember when exactly we met. Do you?
Yes, I do, actually.
Okay. We'll have to go into deeper context next week, and you'll have to remind me.
It's not very interesting, and I remember pretty much a few months after, Jason was trying to out me in a 6th grade Bobo math class as a poser because I went from not ever watching wrestling to wearing wrestling T-shirts. And Jason, being the wrestling fan that he was, noticed that I was wearing one of the wrestling shirts that made noises because it had like the battery pack inside the shirt. And rather than be like, oh, hey, man, that's a cool shirt, I was like, you fucking poser, you know that shirt makes noises, right?
Like, that's an insult.
Well, no, it was you owned the cooler wrestling shirts. I was more or less like Christmas Eve at the mall when you're like, I didn't do any Christmas shopping. You literally grab anything you can find. That was the thing with the Attitude Era was when wrestling got really, really popular. I remember Square One had that wrestling store.
Oh, I love that store.
With all the T-shirts.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was, I want to say I got the T-shirt it was right after Owen Hart died. Don't ask me why. Like, Owen Hart dies, and all of a sudden, like, that store was just flooded with people buying shit. Yeah. And I was basically, whatever was left over, I took. So I had the Stone Cold shirt with the 3 skulls at the bottom of the shirt, where if you pressed any one of the 3 skulls, it would be one of Stone Cold's lines. It was literally the crappiest shirt you could grab.
No.
Of course, then there were like the bootleg shirts you'd get at like Bradley's.
All right, I have a DX one from what's the fucking
Oh, it's
beach?
Ames?
Huh?
Was it Ames?
No, I have one of those, but like the beachfront T-shirt manufacturers, like Salisbury Beach DX T-shirt.
Yeah, so I'm thinking like Hampton Beach. Is it?
Yeah, Hampton Beach,
The sprayed on ones?
basically.
Oh my god. Yeah, those were pretty terrible. I remember I had a friend throw a fit at Canopy Lake because when Limp Bizkit's Nookie came out, there was a kid in line and he had one of those really shitty Hampton Beach like spray on shirts. And it was like a really crap, like terribly drawn Fred Durst on it with the backwards like New York Yankees red cap. And he was holding a chocolate chip cookie and it just word bubble said I like cookies. And like this my friend just flipped out on the kid. So you could tell, that mind you, that was 6th grade. So I hung around some pretty stable people in my lifetime. Jason could vouch for that.
All of which we'll get into next week.
So now, do we have any tweets? Because I know I didn't. Typically, and this is, I'm going to break the fourth wall here. Right before we do the show, I'll check the phone lines, and normally I'll check the phone lines and be like, nope, nothing. Jason, we got any tweets? And of course, it's Friday night we're recording. It feels like Sunday to me because
SmackDown's on. People are out getting drunk and busy, but
yeah.
So,
Well,
a small lack of tweets, but we have a couple. But before we jumped into reading this week's tweets, if you have any tweets that you want to ask us about who we are, our past, anything about the show, please do it all this week because this would be the week to do it.
You do realize now that if they do that at MO Commentary on Twitter, if anyone even gives a crap about who we are, and it's going to be probably Michael Spears, it's going to be one guy genuinely interested. We're going to have to make a lot of that shit up just to be like, holy crap, there's at least one person that cares. Oh man, I feel bad for that one person.
But also next week we are going to do the Mania show, the pre-Mania show. We should probably talk about Mania plans too before we jump into Twitter questions.
Well, what are our Mania plans, sir?
Well, basically, I believe Thursday night we get back our Podomatic account.
Yep, our Podomatic account has been hijacked by the fact that we're both engaged saving for weddings and we have no money.
Yeah, and so you're probably listening to this on YouTube or weeks after when I reposted it on Podomatic. But yeah, so Thursday we'll get it back. I think we're gonna post episode 1 of Mark's off commentary, the 100th, not 100th. Don't want to say 100th.
1 year anniversary show.
The 1 year anniversary show, part 1. Friday might be the Mania show. Saturday will be part 2 of the Mark's off commentary anniversary show. And then Sunday, if it goes well, keep an eye out on Facebook and Twitter because we're probably going to try and do some type of live show where people can call in. If you're interested in participating, tweet us, let us know, get a hold of me. I will respond one way or the other.
And of course, he says live show. And I already know at least 2 people and probably the only 2 people that will call us during that show.
You'd be surprised. There's been some fans. So...
Yeah, Mike Wentz of the Mike Show is not one of those people. And I think I addressed this. No, I didn't address this last time. Last time it was I look like the lead, the band leader of the DX band. Mm-hmm. This past week, I believe it was, he posted a facepalm shot from the, I shouldn't say which studio. He worked for the rival radio station, or when I worked at radio, the station that we were rivaling with. Yeah, I got a nice facepalm video because he took exception to the fact that I said Sable was a really good athlete and Luna was an okay athlete. You know what, sir? It could have been a lot worse. I could have said Deborah and Nicole Bass were good athletes. I could have gone that direction on you.
So suck it.
Yeah. Suck it, but good day, sir, is probably what I'll say to him.
Yeah. But, if you would like to participate in the WrestleMania show, the pre-WrestleMania show, anybody that wants to, send us a voicemail because we're doing some big collection. I want to hear your picks of the WrestleMania card. Keep it to a minute or a minute and a half, and you'll make the show.
Or at this rate, if you have any thoughts or opinions on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Michael Bay remake, or even Anne Heche's butthole, please send those care of Marks on Commentary.
All right. Let's see. Kellen Nitro wants to know basically about the weather about WrestleMania.
I think this is where you insert a clip from Family Guy of the Black Weatherman. It's gonna rain.
Is it?
I don't know. I don't live in New Orleans.
Oh, I thought you had like inside information.
No, it's Al Capone clip. High pressure.
Hang on.
I'm getting a 50 in meteorology right now. I'm the last person you want to ask about the weather to.
Hence, maybe why you should have looked it up.
It's not right.
Orly, hang on. I'm doing the research right now.
Does this person really care, or are they seriously like sitting back and being like, "What are these losers doing home on a Friday night on Twitter?" You know, fuck them. I'm asking them about the weather.
And you know what? It just occurred to me that it really doesn't fucking matter because they're in the Superdome.
Yeah. So you know what? Thanks a lot, asshole. That was a trick question.
Douche.
We're smarter than you. Hashtag eat it.
Oh yeah, if you're a douchebag on Twitter, don't follow us.
You know they're going to anyway. I believe Jason's mom has a podcast or did a podcast. Is that what I read?
I guess so. Your mom bot loves to retweet things that we tweet. So my mom does a lot, I guess.
Honestly, that sounds like a Tim Howe creation. I know who the hell that is, but I'm sure you'll hear a lot about him on the Mark's Off Commentary show.
Yeah, that's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, essentially that's a Tim Howe. I know he's gonna listen because he's gone rogue or off the grid or whatever in terms of.
Yeah, you can't ever find him. I email him and I wonder if he gets to him.
However, I drive to North Reading, and I'm greeted a few hours later at work to a text message with him asking me if my beard was itchy. And that's when he later said, "Yeah, I saw you driving by." I'm like, dude, that's really fucking creepy, Tim.
All that next week.
Yeah. Well, we have a legitimate tweet before we wrap things up.
Sure. Stephen Whitehead wants to know if you think the WWE network will turn out to be like Sirius XM.
Like if they'll merge with someone, or if it'll kind of be like an innovative idea in the beginning and then it kind of fizzles out.
Yeah, will they lose focus early on because they already have our money and feel no need to kind of invest into it anymore because there's no competition?
Isn't that how they already feel, though, as a company as a whole, that there's no really credible competitor out there? So, I mean, you'll notice, too, when WWE has their complacent periods, because that's when you get a show like this. And you literally, Monday Night Raw is like, I don't know if you ever played the general manager mode. I think it was SmackDown vs. Raw 2006, where it was like you were just kind of, all your athletes are getting beat up and you just couldn't use them anymore. And you were losing money, and you were trying to beat out the other show, and literally it was like, well, I'll just keep throwing in ads, and that's how I'll make my money back and be able to buy the better superstars. Like, I just kind of feel like we've reached a point where it's like, Mania is probably I feel like in past years, Mania was still something they were building toward and like figuring out and like moving the card around and doing different things with it. I feel like they just were already like, screw it, it's a 3-match pay-per-view done.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, we could, build this thing for about 4 weeks, or we can get Scooby-Doo on the show. Yeah.
That would wrap up all the Twitter questions for this evening.
Well, I suppose that'll also wrap up Marks on Commentary. 978-276-9418 at MO Commentary, marksoncommentary.com. I don't know how many days we have left to sell shirts, but if you'd like to own a shirt, $19.99, markscommentary.com. You can visit the site and take you right there.
Yep.
YouTube, we're still doing the Marks on Mania thing.
Yep, there's more to come. I've been a little not feeling great, so they're coming. I apologize for the delay.
So on that note, I'm Eddie Brophy.
I'm Jason Smith.
We are Marks on Commentary, and we'll be talking to you guys next week.
Bad flick.
Bad flick.